Foreplay starts with coffee in the morning. It makes complete sense why you are not primed and ready and motivated to jump right into things. That is going to be a huge break and turn you the fuck off. Women desperately want to be held and supported. We can experience full body orgasms, energetic orgasms. Welcome to the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast, your go-to place for approachable conversations around sacred sexuality and conscious relationships. I'm your host, Janine McKinnon, certified trauma-informed sex, love, and relationship coach who's on a mission to support 1 million women and couples to experience deeper connection and more expansive pleasure inside and outside the bedroom. This is the space to go deep, to dive below surface level relationships and mess sex and explore the sacredness that sexuality and conscious relationships have to offer. Because deep connection, spiritual sexuality, full body orgasms, and transmuted sexual energy are available to everyone. And I'm here to serve the collective, to provide the knowledge, wisdom, and tools to access them. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful we're able to connect in this way, and I can't wait to dig into the contents of this episode with you. Without further ado, let's get into it. Foreplay starts with coffee in the morning. Hello and welcome back. As you may have noticed from the updated introduction, I have decided to make a little bit of shifts around here. It's something I've been mulling over for a little while now and has really come through, I guess, with the full moon, now that I'm lining up the dates and things like that. It really came through last week in that I have been playing it safe by having the overall topic and conversations and messages that I share being around women's empowerment. And although that is my deep why behind what I do, the ripple effect of this work in women's empowerment through the lens of sexuality, that's just it. At the core of everything I do, it's through the lens of sacred sexuality and conscious relationships. And I've been playing it safe by not doubling down on that. So it's time. I am ready to fully stand in my power as the go-to place to have these accessible conversations around sacred sexuality and conscious relationships. I do believe my particular flavor and perspective and approach to all of this is a lot different from other things you might see around. Although I do feel quite embodied in my sensuality as a certified sex, love, and relationship coach, and the way I carry myself, both on my own as a multifaceted woman, as well as in my relationship and as a mom, I am not necessarily super out there and flaunting about it. I see a lot of other podcasts and coaches just being a lot more, I guess, let's say extroverted about it and really having a lot of power and punch behind the words they use and the way they present themselves. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. It's just I have a different flavor that I feel is quite approachable and accessible to be able to have these conversations in a way that feels safe for your nervous system. That's a comment I've received over and over and over again from the different clients I've been working with and conversations I've been having at markets, is that I am so approachable to be able to speak about so many of the topics that many of you are nervous about speaking out loud with other people. And I am a safe space to be able to ask those questions that perhaps you have been mulling around in your head. Maybe you've mentioned them to your significant other, but also there's a whole lot of you who haven't even done that. And maybe you've chatted about it with a girlfriend or something like that. And again, also, there's a whole lot of you who haven't even done that. And you've kept these curiosities inside. And it's my honor to be able to be that safe place, to answer those questions, to provide you new perspectives and different tools to be able to really dive into the world of sacred sexuality and conscious relationships, because all of this is so much deeper and sacred to me. Sex is not just sex and going out and having fun and connecting with other people. And yes, that's a part of it. And I would even say that connection is quite lacking in most instances. And yes, you can have fun doing that. I have certainly sowed my oats and had my years of doing that. And sex is something that is so, so sacred. And the way we carry ourselves in a relationship is also sacred when we do it through a conscious lens. And that is something to be honored and cherished and tended to through dedication, through that conscious lens of how we can go deep with these things, how we can go deep in our relationships to continue to support each other into these continuous cycles of newer versions of ourselves while we go through life, while we work through our challenges. And through each challenge as a couple, I find you deepen that connection more and more every single time. And then through sacred sexuality, again, there's that sacredness to it. We can reach altered states of consciousness. We can touch the divine through sex with our partners as well as sacred sexuality practices. We can experience full body orgasms, energetic orgasms. We can move our sexual energy to fully nourish our bodies, to be able to transmute that energy into other forms of creation. There is so much more out there and accessible to us than just plain old sex and getting off. And again, sure, that has a time and a place. That can be fun. And I am here to open you up to the buffet that is really available to you when you choose to go deeper, choose to really bring your consciousness into this and use it as a lens to really transform yourself, to be fully embodied in who you are, to feel fully safe in your body, to experience all of the sensations and energy moving around that is available to you. And that does take time and work. Many of the women I speak to who are pre-orgasmic, and I use that word because I do believe orgasms are accessible to everyone. It's just a matter of creating that safety within our body and within our containers and our relationships. And once we learn how to do that, which is something I help clients with, we are able to then experience orgasms and to be able to build them from those quick little bursts of energies to something that is more and more expansive and rippling throughout your body and your aura. And that really comes down to that foundation of love, safety, and belonging within. And sure, there's a whole women's empowerment side to all of this, but to be completely honest, that's like a fantastic side effect to this work. But I feel like the real desire, whether that is through curiosity and exploration and wanting to expand more and more, or if that desire is rooted in a challenge and this weight that you are just carrying over you, and you desire to feel that cloud lifted off your shoulders, and then to explore what your sexuality and relationships can be like without that cloud hanging over you. For you to really soften into your body, into your partner, and see what connection and pleasure is available to you there. So I will not continue rambling on just this particular thing. I just wanted to share with you that there is that new direction here. So my intention is for this to be your go-to space for accessible conversations around sacred sexuality and conscious relationships. Now, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram at janine.mckinnon or send me an email to info@janinemckinnon.com. I would love to answer them for you on the podcast. I am considering doing a bit of a Ask Alice type of segment. So I really encourage you, if you have any questions at all, I'm here for you. Please send them my way and I am happy to answer them for you. But without further ado, let's get into this episode's topic, which is foreplay starts with coffee in the morning. I love that saying. I first heard it from Olga Nadal, divorce coach, and it rings so true. For most women, or those that are really embodied in their feminine energy, naturally, we can definitely shift towards masculine energy because of our societal conditioning, but that's a whole other conversation. But for women and feminine beings, generally, we require emotional connection and non-sexual physical connection before we are ready to open up for more sexual physical acts. Now, men and those that are really anchored in their masculine energy, they often desire that physical connection to be able to open up for emotional connection. And so there can be a bit of disconnection there. And we can definitely work with what we have. There are different tools to be able to prime both of us, to be able to have what we desire. And so my intention for this conversation is to, one, provide you with permission. If you are someone who is really struggling to get turned on and to want to hop into a sexual act with your partner with their first initiation before actual foreplay has taken place, and you're just more closed up, you're not into it, it's really hard to say yes and switch gears into that, full permission for that, full understanding that it makes complete sense why you are not primed and ready and motivated to jump right into things. So just putting that out there first, it's okay. I get it. You are completely normal and like most other women out there. And there's some things we can do about it. And that is the other intention, to really provide you with some tools to help navigate this a little bit more. So when I mentioned that women require both emotional connection, which is what I see most conversations around this focused on, is that emotional connection, but I believe it's more than that. And so that is why I added in the non-sexual physical connection, because I think we as women desperately want to be held and supported, and to be able to just surrender into feeling that stability, that containment that our masculine partners offer us, with a hug, with their arms wrapped around us, even with a touch. That is so important. And I think where a lot of couples struggle with this, that I see in these dynamics, is that when there is that mismatched libido, then most physical touch tends to contain this expectation with it. So that if someone comes up and if he wraps your arm, not someone, I don't know why I said someone, but if he comes up, if he wraps his arms around you, and there is this pressure you put on yourselves of, oh, he wants sex. Oh, this is just him trying to get sex out of me, whether it's right now or later down the road. And so then there's that shutdown. You're unable to actually surrender into it, to feel that support from it, because it feels like he wants to take something from you by offering that to you. And so there's that misbalance. It's unbalanced there. And then for him, he starts to feel rejected from these particular things not working. And so he begins to not do it at all. And so what I see with couples is that both of you are craving that touch and connection so desperately, yet through weeks, months, years of doing this dance, you end up both not receiving what you're wanting, which really is that connection. Even if it doesn't end up with sex, he too really wants that physical connection with you. So that's such an important piece of this. It's not just about the emotional connection. And yes, that is absolutely a huge part for us to be able to have conversations, to really feel seen in those conversations, not just chatting back and forth as if it's like people passing each other by, those ships passing in the night, but to actually feel seen and listened to in your conversations. And I think what you so desperately crave as well is to feel that physical connection without an expectation placed on you. And so that's important. So that's an important thing to have conversations with your partner around. And if this is you, I definitely encourage you, use this podcast as a jumping off point. Hey, I listened to this thing and I would really just love to be touched and held by you a little bit more. And in doing that, I would feel so much more supported and connected with you. And if there are no expectations at those moments, I do think that over time, it will end up making me feel more and more desired to have more intimate connections with you. So you see what I did there? That's a communication tool, trick, whatever you want to call it. And I could go into more detail for a whole other podcast episode, but it is stating the topic, being very clear about what you want and how it makes you feel. That's a great way for feminine beings to communicate with the masculine, to be able to get things. So I encourage you to do that and to create more moments of physical connection throughout your day, because that is going to prime you. Well, even sex out of the conversation, that's going to make you feel more connected with your partner. It's going to make you feel more supported. And if you just take a moment and think about that. Think about having 3 or more instances in the day where you feel more connected and more supported. How would that make you feel? How would that impact how you show up in your relationship? How would that impact how you show up with your family or in work or your creative endeavors? I'm betting that would make a pretty big impact, and that's something that would build momentum and really grow as each day goes on, as you feel more connected and more supported in your home, in your relationship with who you are. And so, like I said, that's something that builds, and it's going to make you feel more desire with your partner. Now, another piece of it, and again, I think it might be a whole other podcast conversation, is the difference between reactive desire, and now I'm at a loss for the right words, but immediate desire. And so it's also totally normal to just not have that desire or that libido to just have sex at a moment's notice. Most women, and actually most people in general, I can't remember the exact numbers from a study, but we have reactive desire. And again, most relationships, you're going to have a mismatch. You're going to be at different levels. We're very different people. It makes sense that we're going to be at different levels with our desire and our libido. And what I think it really requires is, one, for the higher desire to be able to let go of some expectation, to be able to learn more about the lower desire libido partners, brakes and accelerators. And again, that's a whole other conversation. I can go in many different directions with this. And it takes the willingness of the lower desired partner to be able to say, make me want to. I'm open to it. Why don't you help get me there? Rather than that initial close down because we are too tired, we have too many things going on, our heads are spinning, we're just exhausted, we're not in the mood, we can come up with a million excuses, right? And so what I think it really takes with a conscious couple who is wanting to build this connection, who is wanting to build this sacred sexuality between each other, it takes understanding from the one partner, well, from both, and from the lower desire, it takes the openness. And again, not necessarily with the expectation. Just because you're open doesn't mean it's going to get to penis and vagina penetration and this whole thing. No. What it is an openness to see where things take you, an openness to connect, and that higher desire partner to understand what that other partner wants, what makes them feel, again, supported and connected, what allows them to get out of their head and into their bodies. So you can just surrender into the moment and see where it takes you. So all of these are great things to have conversation with your partner around. And so that's why I say foreplay starts with coffee in the morning. I saw another, I think it was probably a TikTok video or something like that, that what we tend to think of as foreplay, as like kissing and touching before penetration, is more men's foreplay. I think that generalizes a bit much. I would like to put an erotic blueprint spin on it, which if you're interested in that, I have a whole episode I'll try and link in the show notes that goes into that more detail. But I think of the kissing and touching before penetration is actually foreplay for the sexual blueprint. But there's 5 different blueprints, and we all require a whole lot of different types of foreplay that are completely unrelated to the bedroom. And so that begins with coffee in the morning. That includes how you say goodbye to each other when one or both of you leave for work, whatever it may be. That includes the connection points you have throughout the day with whether it's a phone call or little messages, checking in, maybe some flirtatiousness going on. It includes how you connect after that longest separation and how you really feel seen and heard in you catching up from the day. It includes those non-sexual physical touches where you do feel supported and held by the masculine. I know you desire that so much, and it truly feels so good. One of my favorite things between Matt and I is how when I am in the kitchen making things, which I spend a lot of time in the kitchen making food for our family. It's something I take a lot of pride and purpose in nourishing my family. And Matt will come up behind me and wrap his arms around me and just hold me and lean into me. And I'm able to lean into him and just surrender into being held and feel his stubble on my neck. And it's, like I said, it is one of my favorite things. And so incorporating your own version of that, whatever it feels like. It can include that team working of household and family duties. It includes having your space cleaned up Because those, especially with that sensual blueprint, that sock on the floor can be screaming at you, and that is going to be a huge break and turn you the fuck off. So we need to think of all of these things that can be our breaks, these things that can get in our way. And foreplay is a way of, I guess, easing off those breaks. We're dealing with those in not necessarily anticipation, in support of one another, and that just happens to prime you to want to have more sexy time with your partner. And then foreplay also includes putting the gas on some of those accelerators, perhaps knowing that a certain scent gets you in the mood, and so putting that on in your essential oil diffuser. Perhaps you know that you get caught up in your head a lot, and so let's put on some dance tunes while you're making dinner, or some slow and sensual music, whatever makes you move and get into your body and out of your head. These are all acts of foreplay, really, in helping to support you in really having more of that desire, or should I say having that openness to build your desire even more. And again, that's that other piece of it, is just shifting your mindset around the automatic shutdown, because your body feels shut down and your mind feels shut down, and this, that, and the other thing, and we can go on and on and on, and just having openness. Allowing yourself to call in some of that ease you so desperately desire, and being able to trust your partner in meeting you in that. And sometimes that's going to take more communication and work than in other cases. We all have different relationship dynamics, and I'm happy to help you navigate that through a consultation call or through a coaching session. Do you desire more in your relationship and sexuality? Whether you're excited to explore or feel held back by your challenges, I'm here to support you where you need it. I invite you to book a complimentary connection call through the link in the show notes. During our time together, you'll share your desires, and I'll provide you with just the right resources to support you wherever you are in your journey. Again, that is a complimentary connection call through the link in the show notes to spark a shift in your sexuality and relationships. And so these are all different ways that we can really prime ourselves and open ourselves to have that deeply connected, sacred sexuality experiences with our partner, as well as also just the fun one-offs. Because again, it's not just about one or the other. We can have this whole buffet and plethora of sexual connected experiences available to us. And starting with coffee in the morning for foreplay and continuing building those different connection points throughout the day is going to really help prime you to have more of those enjoyable, pleasurable experiences. So I will leave it at that for today. Thank you so much for listening. I would love to hear your thoughts. Do you have any questions? Did this give you any ahas or wows or anything like that? What do you think of the new direction for the podcast? Please reach out to me. I would love to just chat. It's always so much joy when I hear from you, because this can be this one-way thing where I'm speaking out into the ethers. And yes, I see each of you listening to this, whether you're driving in your car or doing something or out for a walk. And it feels so good when I can receive some of that connection back, right? When I can hear from you, hear how this has impacted you, what your thoughts are, what your questions are. I truly would love to have that connection point with you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You can DM me on Instagram at janine.mckinnon, or shoot me an email, info@janinemckinnon.com. I would love to chat. Thank you so much for listening. It has been such a pleasure. I'm so excited for where this podcast is going. I have so many topics that I've been brainstorming that have been flowing out of me. I feel like this is just so aligned, and I am receiving those downloads in alignment, and I just can't wait to serve you, to share these transmissions. So, okay, I will stop rambling. Thank you. Wishing you an absolutely beautiful day. Thank you for joining us inside the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you feel called, I would so appreciate it if you left us a review to help us reach more women and couples so they can experience deeper connection and more expansive pleasure inside and outside the bedroom too. Until next time, embrace your desire and experience your magic.